Now that we've had Better Marriages here in New Mexico, you're thinking of opening up a chapter. Tell me a little bit about that, Craig.
You know, one of the exciting things about this year's Better Marriages event, and there have been previous ones, has been the great partnership with local leadership. And so there's some really solid support systems here on the ground already in Albuquerque and serving the whole state. And so working in partnership with them, Priscilla especially, and I then in support of Priscilla, have been really working more strongly with them to expand their presence after they leave. And we hope that what can come out of this will be things like marriage enrichment groups. Our abbreviation for those is MEG, marriage enrichment groups, which brings couples together on a periodic basis, usually once a month, where as a peer group, they talk about issues across the wide range of issues the couples deal with, and then actually explore those in a supportive kind of environment. Couples will actually talk with each other one-on-one in the presence of other couples in a supportive environment as they process issues that range from finances to personality to sexuality to spirituality, you name it. Those will come up in those peer-oriented groups. And the whole idea is that peer groups can support one another, that there is a strength in being among those who are not experts in general, but experts on their relationship and committed to a lifetime of growth.
And learning more to better their marriage.
Yes, and what's great about marriage enrichment groups is that you mentioned it is a group of peer couples. And so there isn't one couple who is the teacher and the expert. It's equals who are all in the trenches, as we said.
Hey, you're the one who said it, Priscilla.
They're in the trenches, you know, they're making this marriage work and they're figuring it out. And everyone in that circle of couples is dealing with the same issues that all couples deal with.
And what's exciting when you actually get in those group contexts is that having been a part of these groups for years, we will be listening to another couple as they're talking with each other, just sort of working through a topic, an issue, or maybe even a matter where there's disagreement and some conflict going on. And it'll spark a realization in us that they're describing something that really hits home for us. And so we can then pick up on that, turn to each other and say, you know, what Sally and Bill just said is directly applicable to us right now, and now then we talk about that a little bit more. So we're sparking and encouraging and spurring one another on while we're listening and encouraging each other.
Priscilla, how can people find out more if you're going to have the chapters here? We also do have other enrichment type programs, but if Better Marriages will have chapters.
Again, the website, www.bettermarriages.org, and there's information on marriage enrichment groups, what they do. We will be gathering information from local couples and sharing with them how they can become involved, and we'll have that information on our website. And you mentioned working with several partners. We're working with Healthy Marriages New Mexico, which is a program of the Samaritan Counseling Center. And
Hillary Bravo is
Hillary
part of that
Bravo.
program, and she's been a guest here on Issues and Answers.
And they're doing great work locally. And so we're working with them to help strengthen what they're doing. And they're working with us to help us strengthen the Fiesta. So it's a win-win. We're also working with the Family Lifeline, which is in Rio Rancho. I think that's Rio Rancho. And they work with couples, strengthening relationships, very similar missions to ours. And we're working with New Mexico Event and Wedding Planner magazine. And that's been an interesting friendship and partnership because, of course, they do a lot of emphasis on weddings. But the publisher, Joy Gutierrez, is very interested in the whole educational value of the Fiesta. That it isn't simply couples coming to have fun, but it's couples coming to have fun and learn great tips and techniques and skills for their relationship.
What's interesting, Greg, in the past, I guess who would have really thought, you're not a counseling, it's not a counseling service,
right.
But there are people who want to come together to work. It's like an education on their marriage. Instead of just taking it for granted and thinking it's going to work itself out, find and men contribute as well as the women?
Right, yeah, you know, that's often asked because there's sort of the idea that men are going to be reluctant to actually opening up their emotions, talking about feelings. Those are women kinds of things. That is sometimes true, but sometimes it's just the opposite. Sometimes it's the women or a woman in a partnership who's a little more reluctant. But back to the men business, men will be surprised at the number of men who are deeply engaged, energized by this whole deal of lavishing some loving attention on their relationship and learning better and better how to get along and maximize the potential of their relationship with their wives. So I think those who may wonder about that ought to come and explore that. One of the things that's interesting about the event is one of our rules is sharing is voluntary. So the level of a couple's participation is purely dependent on what they want to bring and what they want to do to participate. You can come to this event, sit back and just watch and do nothing else. Or you can engage very actively. In fact, the event is designed so that every segment provides couples with ample opportunity to actually be processing face-to-face. Also, ought to say that there's no exposure, unwilling exposure. Couples don't have to worry about their relationship being pulled out for everybody to look at or having to answer questions in a group setting that they're not comfortable about. Any kind of couple dialogue going on is purely voluntary, and it's private couple dialogue, so they won't be exposed.
That's important. You know, we always at events honor the persons that we call the draggees. And we always say, you know, in a couple, usually and often, one person is so excited they can't wait. They've signed up for the fiesta, they've chosen their workshops, they can't wait to get there. And there's another person in that relationship who is being dragged, kicking and screaming, you know, leaving black skid marks with their heels, coming to the event. That's the draggee. And we honor those people because what we recognize is that it's the person in the couple that doesn't necessarily want to come, but they're coming for their partner. And that because they see that it's important to their partner.
What a powerful thing that is to do.
What kind of comments have you received? Again, the Organization of Better Marriages has been around since 1973. You've been the executive director for the past 3 years. You've dealt with a lot of couples. I asked if there's any statistics showing that you've kept people together, but what kind of comments that you wouldn't have expected have you heard throughout the years, Priscilla?
You know, we have pages of testimonials on our website, bettermarriages.org, and it is so heartening to read what couples say. We've heard them say that they would not be together had it not been for their involvement in Better Marriages, that many of them are in a second marriage or a third marriage, and they say, you know, we didn't get it right the first or second time. We want to do it differently, and we believe that the skills we're learning to understand how to communicate, how to use conflict creatively so that it actually brings us closer together, not pushes us apart, that is making a difference in this marriage. And so that's something we hear often.
We also hear things from couples who are at various stages of their lives and their relationships, their family systems, their business lives. Busy people who wondered if they had time to really nurture the relationship. They just hoped that it would go on cruise control and they could deal with the rest of things, who talk about the way this organization and the way the resources of Better Marriages have helped them shape their busy lives as a true companionship relationship. Really? And how to manage the challenges and difficulties of parenting and keeping that love relationship fresh while they're focused on rearing a family. We've heard from couples who reach that empty nest stage of lives and are concerned about having become strangers to one another, who talk about how it can be enlivened.
A funny story, a friend of mine here in Santa Fe, she'll know who she is. She had 3 sons who went off to college, and she was relating the story when her youngest was going off to college. She said she looked at her husband and she just started bawling.
Oh, yeah.
But since then said everything was wonderful, but still the idea, you spend so much time rearing the children, when they leave, the empty nest syndrome. What does happen with that, Greg?
Yeah, well, oftentimes it depends on what's happened in the years before. If the relationship has been nurtured and the couple is intentional about that through those years, they're not strangers to one another. They're not starting from a dead stop in trying to now cultivate their relationship. Even if they are, though, there's hope, because there are some simple resources for connecting interpersonally, for beginning to explore what your goals for the next stage of life are, and getting on the same page together about that and making it a partnership.
Other than communicate, we just a couple minutes left, Priscilla. Other than communications, what else can people do? I mean, we always hear communications is a key.
Sure. I have one story I want to share, and you're talking about what you can do, you know, at the empty nest stage or whatever. A friend came to me and she said, I've been married 25 years, I love my husband, but I don't like him. Oh, yeah. He's not fun, he's a fuddy-dud, we have nothing in common, there's nothing to talk about. And I said, you fell in love with him, you chose him, so as an exercise, write down 10 things that you admire about him, that you appreciate about him, and then share it with him. She came back to me about a week later and she said, 10 things, I came up with 20. And so I think what I would say is that in a relationship, being intentional and proactive and understanding that the relationship is not going to operate on autopilot, that it takes some energy, but that energy reaps such huge rewards. It's so worth it. And that we can all just take our relationships more seriously. And, you know, we have mentioned communication, conflict. Those are just foundational skills for a relationship. If you can learn communication skills, you can talk about any issue and make it better. And
if you have the communication skills,
it's foundational.
Another interesting friend said this just this past weekend about relationships. They're always under construction.
Absolutely.
Yes. They're always under
That's
construction.
That's what keeps them interesting.
That's what keeps them interesting. And an effort, if it takes an effort.
Yes.
Priscilla, you are such a delight.
Thank you.
Now I've chosen, I think you're the better half. But
oh, thank you.
Thank you. She's the executive director of Better Marriages. She's married to Dr. Greg Hunt, who's also a specialist in marriage enrichment. What a delight you are as well. Thank you so much.
Glad to be here.
Glad that you're here in New Mexico, in
you.
Bernalillo County, and you're going to have your marriage fiesta. And again, if people can't make it there, a lot of information on your website.
Yes, www.bettermarriages.org.
Very good. Thank you so much, and best of luck with the fiesta.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. And I'm Diane Kinderwater. You go out and make it a great week with your family, as we always say in this program, and best of luck to you as well. See you next time. Bye-bye.